school students don't. And I looked down on the field at halftime, and there was this guy with a cast and a bass, kind of stumbling around on the field with the marching band. And that was Rollan.
Broken leg. And one of my memories of Rollan from high school was similar to what Gary experienced in junior high. Was we were sitting in the quad in our little regimented area that we're supposed to stay in, and some big football player, bully, I can't even remember exactly what, came walking by and hurled some insult at Rollan that was quite nasty. And so we sat there, and Gary and I just kind of looking at each other. We're not going to do anything, we're too scared to do anything. Rollan sits there and steams for a couple minutes. He gets up, he goes somewhere. We don't know exactly what happened. He came back about 2 minutes later with his glasses broken. And apparently he had tried to even the score and had sustained some collateral damage. But the funny thing is, he just sat down and started eating his lunch again. That was just, he didn't mind the cost of doing that kind of business. That was what needed to happen. And the next day he came, Gary was reminding me, he came with duct tape on his glasses. And wore that duct tape for quite a while.
Yeah, so he was kind of a character in high school, and then after high school, as Scott alluded to, we decided to go to Europe before we started college. And Mark and I actually went to go, we were traveling together, and Scott and Rollan were traveling together, and we had decided we would hook up sometime later on during the year. And we were riding our bicycles right on the border of Germany and Holland, and we looked up and we saw this guy riding towards us. It's kind of weird, an American on a bicycle. And we got a little closer and realized it was Rollan. I mean, the chance of that was just absolutely amazing. And Scott had actually been in a car accident, so he was recuperating. And from that day on, I think, and from that moment, we became fast friends, and all the rest of the adventures happened after that.
For the 30 years after that.
Yeah. So kind of starting with one where we were kind of showing Rollan being relatively adventurous. We were in Rome. In France on this big sort of bridge aqueduct structure that the Romans had built, and we kind of crawled out to the edge. I kind of shimmied on my belly out to the edge of this bridge and looked down 300 feet. And I look over and Rollan's walking up next to me, and he puts his feet right over the edge of this bridge looking down. I'm just like, wow. How can somebody have be so fearless? Wow.
And let's see, the next story we wanted to talk about was just kind of going into detail when we went to ran out of money. We ran out of money and got these jobs, or we didn't actually have any jobs. No money, no jobs, and we had no place to stay. So we were sleeping in the snow in a tent for a while, but we decided to get some work if possible. And what work could we get? We're in another country. We don't know anything. We don't know anyone.
Speak the language.
So Rollan proceeds to buff up on his German, get a job as a ski lift operator. We couldn't even get that in our own country. And it was just amazing. When he set his mind to something, he just got it done. I don't know how. And I didn't even feel like I was in his same league. And shortly thereafter, being a ski lift operator, he was going around in the helicopters with the avalanche specialist, planting dynamite to cause
Yeah, the big long bamboo pole, the stick of dynamite, and they'd fly right over it and then just jab it into the snow where they thought there would be an avalanche. And then the helicopter would fly away and it would blow up. Wow.
Meanwhile, Gary and I are down in town washing dishes. That's our job.
Yeah, and then the next adventure that we sort of fell into was we were down in Portugal on this beautiful beach, and we're looking out at the waves, and I wasn't quite of the same line, but Rollan and Scott and Mark decided, hey, it looks like it's kind of a big break, but let's go out there into the waves. And the water's kind of cold, but it's okay. So they, and they're great body surfers from Corona del Mar, and they go out and red surf, big surf all the time. And they started swimming into the surf, and the waves started starting to get bigger and bigger because it was a lull at the time, and the waves were really calm. And pretty soon we had these spaces of waves that were 25 and 30 feet high, and they keep swimming and swimming and swimming out there, and then they realized that they were far from shore, and ended up calling a Coast Guard, and they came and took them away, plucked them out of the ocean.
I'll always remember, and that's another key thing for me for Rollan, is we're floating in the Atlantic Ocean here, and it's cold. We're way offshore. There's just cliffs, if you've seen these pictures of Portugal, just sheer cliffs, and there's no way to get to shore. That's the first time in my life I was pretty certain I was going to die. I mean, just didn't make any sense to me how we were not going to die. And I gave up hope at that moment, and I never had that experience before. And Rollan was just hanging there, and it really got me through. Ultimately we got plucked out of the ocean, but with another friend, it might have been different.
And the next adventure was when we were riding our bicycles in Paris, and we'd just been on the Ile de la Cité at Notre Dame, and we were walking across the street, and this poor bum fell into the street, and all these, the light turned green, and all these people were walking literally over him, and I looked down and thought, he's really not doing very well. His face is starting to turn blue, and then started turning white. And I remember Rollan had when we were in high school, worked at a hospital. And I said, Rollan, you should know what to do with this guy. He's laying in the street. He looks like he's going to die. And I said, yeah, run over and give me a spoon. Spoon. So I ran across to a open-air cafe and grabbed a spoon and gave it to him. He took that spoon and jammed it in the guy's mouth because he had swallowed his tongue, and opened up his breathing way. And he just held him like that until he came back to life, basically. And that was an amazing side of Rollan. I think he really felt good and gratified that he had spent that time in the hospital and helped this guy.
And it's another example of how Rollan did not hesitate to do whatever was necessary. Just didn't matter what the consequences were. The next little story we have here is we're kind of going in order here. After we finished our freshman year of college, we're both home in Newport Beach and wondering what we're going to do. We've got nothing to do. Freshman year's over. And I don't know exactly how we decided, but why don't we go to Alaska? We had no car. So I spent whatever money I'd saved and bought a beat-up VW van. And Rollan and my brother and I, we just started driving north with some money, not a lot, and we ran out of money, and we ran out of road somewhere around Ketchikan, and Ketchikan, Alaska. At that point I was sick. I remember I was febrile, curled up in the back of the van, feeling miserable, being homesick. We had nowhere to go, no money. So Rollan pulls the van into a church and says, I'll be back in a couple minutes. I'm going to see what I can do. He comes back, a few minutes later, maybe half an hour. Hey, I got a guy. He's going to let us go to his house. He's going to feed us. He's going to let us store the car. We can wash our clothes. I don't know. And it was all true. And so we did, and we spent the summer up in Alaska fishing because we had to have this big break. Rollan had got us. That was amazing. Let's see, where are we now? Okay.
So then the next thing is, Rollan graduated from college and from Harvard, and he had to go out and go into the real world and get a job. And he was trying to figure out what he could do with a history degree, other than go back to school. So, and kind of, again, illustrating what kind of a personality was, he decided to go after some